अप्रिशिएट किया जा रहा है?
एब्सोल्युटली, हर जगह जब हम इंडियन, स्पेशली मैं तो पहचाना जाता हूँ दस्तार की वजह से, पगड़ी की वजह से, तो मेरे को काफी लोगों ने दोस्त बोला है। तो जब मैं यहाँ पे आया, कल रात को भी मैं यहाँ पे था, फिर आज सुबह फिर वापस आया, एंड यहाँ पे जो भी हम हाथ बटा सकते हैं लोगों के साथ, यहाँ देखो आप पीछे हीटर्स पैक हुए हैं, हजारों की तादाद में हीटर्स हैं यहाँ पे, बच्चों के डायपर्स और टिश्यूज हैं। को पता है कि इंडिया पैसिवली कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है टुवर्ड्स द रिलीफ ऑपरेशंस, टुवर्ड्स कंट्रीब्यूटिंग। और दोस्त एक कॉमन वर्ड है टर्किश में और हिंदी में, तो और लोगों को पता है इस बारे में, और वो हमें देख के दोस्त कहते हैं, व्हिच इज वेरी नाइस, व्हिच इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग।
आप ये इसको कैसे ले जाएंगे और कहाँ पे ले जाएंगे, क्योंकि क्षेत्रफल बहुत बड़ा है, इट्स अबाउट 1.2 लाख स्क्वायर किलोमीटर्स ऑफ एरिया ओवर 10 प्रोविंसेस, 7 सूबे बताए जा रहे हैं बहुत ज्यादा इफेक्टेड है, तो आप ये रिलीफ मटेरियल कहाँ ले जाएंगे?
मैं तो एक छोटा सा वॉलंटियर हूँ यहाँ पे, इसमें से मैंने सिर्फ बहुत थोड़ा सा कंट्रीब्यूट किया है। ये यहाँ के जो लोग हैं, जो इस इलाके के लोग हैं, उन्होंने कंट्रीब्यूट किया है, सारा श्रेय उनको जाता है। मैं सिर्फ एक वॉलंटियर हूँ, मेरे को प्लान भी नहीं पता कि कैसे करेंगे ये, बट ओवरऑल द होल इंडिया ने, लाइक इट्स वेरी अमेजिंग कैसे इंडिया ने सब कुछ छोड़ के सिर्फ फोकस किया ह्यूमैनिटी के साथ खड़े होना। ये एक लीडरशिप का एक निशान है, एंड वी आर वेरी प्राउड कि इंडिया किसी और कंट्री के साथ खड़ा हुआ है। मेरे साथ एक टर्किश फ्रेंड भी है।
हाँ जी, प्लीज बात कराइए।
यहीं पे बने हैं, मतलब दोस्त, उनको भी पता है इंडिया के बारे में। सेना नाम है इनका।
Hi, Sena. India is stepping up to help the people of Turkey and Syria. How would you see this gesture?
I'm Sena, as he said, and thank you for all the help from you. We are Dost. We use same word in Turkish as well. We are really close friends to each other, and thanks for everything, humanity and the leadership. There are lots of terms that we, how can I say, face here, and many people, as you see, voluntarily working here for our country, and from your support, from everything, thanks a lot. And
yes, ladies and gentlemen, people from all walks of life, all nationalities are stepping up to help. One of them is another Indian national, and this is a hotel owner. His name is Dipendra. His hotel is in Cappadocia. Cappadocia is about 600 kilometers from one of the Quake-Hit regions, that is Adana, where India currently now has set up a control room. There were people after the first earthquake, or the first shocks that happened and buildings started crumbling. They ran out of their homes with their children, families. They've spent 2 days in their cars and driven far away from the quake region, and they've arrived at Cappadocia, where Dipendra has not only opened his hotel doors to them, he said, I'll take you in and I'll keep you here as long as you want to stay, without a single naira paisa charged of them. Nearly about 60 people are currently staying at that hotel in Cappadocia. Have a look. आपका होटल कहाँ पर है दीपेंद्र?
सर, जो हमारा होटल है वो कप्पाडोकिया में लोकेटेड है, और इट्स ए स्मॉल प्रॉपर्टी।
और यहाँ पर भूकंप का असर था कैपाडोकिया में?
भूकंप के झटके जरूर आए थे, लेकिन नहीं, कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ है यहाँ पर
लोग आए हैं आपके पास वहाँ शरण लेने, कुछ लोग?
जी, काफ़ी लोग आए, क्योंकि पहले हमें ये लगा कि हम ये चीज़ कैसे कर सकते हैं, क्या कर सकते हैं। तो मेरे ब्रदर हैं भूपेंद्र कुमार, उनने भी गाइड करा कि आप एटलीस्ट खोल दो लोगों की हेल्प के लिए। तो मैंने बोला, ऑल्दो मेरा कंसर्न ये था कि लोग तो बहुत दूर हैं यहाँ से, तो कैसे आएंगे, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऐसा हो गया कि मैंने जैसे ही अनाउंस करा, ट्वीट करा, तो लोग आना चालू हो गए। रात के 4 बजे तक हमने लोगों का चेक इन लिया, लोगों को स्टे करवाया, और कल से फिर हम ब्रेकफास्ट, लंच और डिनर सब कुछ करवा रहे हैं उन लोग को।
तो अर्थक्वेक का जो सेंटर है वो आपके कैपाडोकिया से कितना दूर है, क्योंकि ये दक्षिण तुर्की में हुआ है?
हाँ, दक्षिण तुर्की में हुआ है, तो ये अराउंड 500 to 600 किलोमीटर्स है यहाँ से, और नियरेस्ट इज अदाना। और अदाना पे,
हाँ, तो अदाना से भी लोग आपकी तरफ आए हैं? वहाँ से भी लोग भागकर वहाँ कैपाडोकिया में?
से भी लोग, बिल्कुल, अदाना से लोग काफी यहाँ पर आए हैं, क्योंकि दे आर स्केर्ड टू गेट इनटू द बिल्डिंग, क्योंकि बिल्डिंग बहुत बड़ी बिल्डिंग्स हैं, और वहाँ पे भी करीब 20 बिल्डिंग्स कोलैप्स हो गई हैं।
Just after the first and the second, which is just followed the first earthquake, we just got out of the building and we got in our car and
So they were sleeping in the car
for 2 days.
for 2 days.
Yeah,
Lovely.
we slept in a car. Yes, 80% of our relatives in Hatay unfortunately died.
India is stepping up to help the people of Turkey. We are showing Dosti. Would you appreciate what Dipendra is also doing for you here?
Yeah, I heard, and I really very had my appreciation to India and the other countries, but I think we didn't have a lot of support from Europe, and it is really very, very sorrowful for Turkey.
Europe caught between a rock and a hard place, whether to turn and help Turkey or look at continuing to provide more arms and ammunition for Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine in the Ukraine conflict with Russia. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, just getting you up to speed on the latest updates, the death toll has gone up. It's nearly 17,000 plus who have now been confirmed dead. 37,000 plus have been injured. We'll try and just show you those numbers clearly. 37,000 plus have been injured, 8,000 plus have been rescued, 3,80,000 plus people have been shifted to shelters, 11,000 plus buildings have collapsed, and nearly 79,000 plus personnel are involved in search and rescue. But more importantly, the extent of damage, the area that it covers on the Turkish part is almost 1.2 lakh square kilometers of area, ladies and gentlemen, from the west to the east. It's about 450 kilometer stretch, and from the north to the south, it's about 290 kilometer stretch. So that's the entire space which is involved. That includes 10 provinces which have been hit, 7 of which have been very, very particularly hit in a severe condition. The magnitude was 7.6 and 7.7 respectively, the two quakes, big quakes, which have caused severe damage, and there have been as many as 450 aftershocks that have been recorded. It's reported to be the biggest natural disaster to befall Turkey since 1939, when about 30,000 Turks died in a major earthquake. The impact of the earthquake was also felt apart from Syria, in Lebanon, Greece, Israel, Cyprus. Overall, about 9 nations that felt the brunt of this massive quake, this tragedy that struck humanity. But India is stepping up to the task and is ready to help and do whatever it takes to save lives and help the people of Turkey and Syria. We'll get a move on here on the right stand to the other development, and this is also somewhere in the Asian region. This is China. And after being accused of underreporting COVID cases and deaths, a Lancet study now says that there are no new variants that have emerged during the latest outbreak in China. The study, titled Characterization of the SARS-CoV-2 Variants in Beijing during 2022 and Epidemiological and Phylogenetic Analysis. That's the title of this report. And they say they routinely collected respiratory samples from imported and local COVID-19 cases in Beijing and randomly selected samples for analysis since December 2019. So what were the findings? The findings are very clear. The findings say there are no new strains that have been detected post the zero COVID policy. So there are no new mutations. Genome sequencing shows infections by existing strains. 90% of local infection in Beijing by the Omicron subvariants. It contradicts claims that new variants led to case surge. Imported cases mostly involve different variants. Profile in one region can't be extrapolated to the entire country. So the Lancet report very clearly sets to rest some doubts about new strains, far more dangerous mutations that could further trigger a COVID relapse of the entire world. That's not the case. That's what the Lancet study says, that most of it have been existing variants. Now, the COVID outbreak in China, Jan 3rd, 2020, just to bring you what happened. To Feb 8, 2023, it was the whole number was 98,701,543. That was what was confirmed cases. 117,687 confirmed deaths, and more than 346 crore. That's the 346 crore, 51 lakh 13,661 vaccine doses have been administered to the entire Chinese population. This is data as of November 2022. Now, the deaths in severe cases, they have slid. There is a slide in that, 98%. They have slid 98% up from the peak levels in January. Data reported by China's CDC is coming from hospitals only. Analysts found figures undercounting the national totals. Daily fatalities slid to 102 on the 6th of Feb from 4,273 on the 4th of Jan. Severe cases fell down from 2,000 from a peak fell to 2,000 from a peak of 128,000 on the 5th of Jan. And this is as per media reports that China has been underreporting the studies, but the Lancet study says that there are no new mutations or no new variants that the world needs to be worried of because of this entire surge over December, Jan and Feb in China. Moving on to an exclusive news break here on The Right Stand. And this is big news coming in from Pakistan, where Pakistan is quite literally ready to sign the deal with the IMF. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us these details that the deal is likely tonight, as this is also the last day of the IMF visit to Pakistan. The government will make headway, reaching a deal after what sources claim were tough talks today, as parleys with the global lender were on track and there were no differences with the IMF team. Top sources telling CNN News 18 that Pakistan has agreed to major conditions set by the International Monetary Fund. Pakistan will declare assets of military and civil bureaucrats, and the defense budget will be reviewed accordingly. According to the size of the population and the GDP. There is also an acceptance of a mini budget, and taxes of 200 to 300 billion rupees will be imposed on in February itself on the people. Pakistan will liberalize the market economy plus the state bank. Pakistan will also amend the FBR, NAO and the FIA laws by an ordinance of Parliament. The country will assure political stability. That is what has been assured. Pakistan will also have to make sure friendly countries support it in foreign direct investment. Meanwhile, the Memorandum of Financial and Economic Policy shared with Pakistan Finance Minister, some concessions have been given to Pakistan due to flood devastation. So some of the more stringent conditions that have been imposed by the IMF, the Pakistani establishment is ready to blink. They have agreed to it because they have no other option. They will be bankrupt in the next 10 days. And the IMF visit ends today. So you heard that first here at CNN News 18. Those inputs coming in from our investigations editor Manoj Gupta. Moving on to our next story, the big development, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the dossier or the charge sheet, if I have to say it correctly, that's been put out against the PFI in Maharashtra by the ATS. The propaganda of the PFI exposed yet again in its recent charge sheet against 5 members of the Popular Front of India. The Maharashtra Anti-Terrorism Squad has claimed that the group was working towards bringing Islamic rule to India. CNN News 18 has accessed exclusive PFI documents from Maharashtra Anti-Terror Squad charge sheet. The ATS has claimed that PFI had an internal document with an aim to establish Islamic country by 2047, and that there was a staged program broken down into 4 stages to make India an Islamic state. The documents further reveal that the group aimed at disrupting Hindu organizations such as the RSS. Now, these are some of the details that we've accessed on PFI's hate dossier. The entire goal of turning it into an Islamic state by 2047. So, charge 1, PFI conspired against the state. Charge 2 in the charge sheet is establish Islamic State by 2047. Charge 3 is replace Constitution with Sharia law. Charge 4, PFI working to break the country. And the 5th charge is aim to incite the youth against Hindus. Charge number 6, aim to create rift between religions. Charge number 7, incite Muslims, create unrest in India. Charge number 8, plan to disrupt Hindu groups like the RSS. Charge number 9, aim to target police and the judiciary. Charge number 10, funds from Muslim nations to create havoc. These are all the details as per the Maharashtra ATS charge sheet. Now, let's decode PFI's road to the Islamic State by 2047. A similar pattern was witnessed by not just the Maharashtra ATS but also the Bihar police during its crackdown. The PFI works in 4 stages, and this document was unearthed even in Bihar. In the first stage, they ask all Muslims in different regions and belonging to different sects to unite under the banner of the Popular Front of India. The PFI asked them to recruit more members and give weapons training, including the use of iron rods, swords, and other weapons. The training must include both offensive and defensive techniques. They have been tasked to repeatedly remind the Muslim community of their grievances and create grievances if there are none, and that they must focus on expanding and recruiting new members, establishing an Islamic identity beyond the concept of being an Indian. In stage 2, they asked the cadre to use violence as a tool to terrorize opponents, which means the Hindus in particular, and display collective strength. They have been asked to mobilize. They have been asked to use concepts like the national flag, constitution, and also Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar to shield the real intention, which is of establishing an Islamic rule. Cadre have been asked to reach out to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes, and also infiltrate its members in executive and judiciary at all levels for gathering information and getting favorable outcome that suits their interests. They must also seek funds from other Islamic countries. All this is part of that 2047 docket, part of stage 2 in that docket. Stage 3. In the third stage, they have asked their cadre to create a split between RSS and the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and the OBCs by projecting that RSS is interested only in the welfare of the upper caste Hindus. The document also calls for discrediting all secular parties and forming a purely Muslim, in quotes, purely Muslim party that will cater to the needs of Muslims, Dalits, tribals and backward classes. The document asks its members to project our strength through discipline, carrying out uniform marches and physically intervening in saving the Muslim community wherever required and attacking anyone who opposes our interest. Stockpiling of weapons and explosives must be done at this stage. This is stage number 3. The final stage as per the docket. The document says PFI must emerge as the undisputed leader of all Muslims, sidelining all other Muslim parties and secular organizations, and must gain the trust of at least 50% of SCs, STs and OBCs and work for their interests too. This is the docket that's part of the, and these are details that have been included in the chart sheet saying this is what was found. Interestingly, the same docket was found, like I said, in Bihar too. Now, which are the religious places that should be targeted? Are these going to be targeted institutions and also religious places? They include, and as per the chart sheet, RSS headquarters and at least 25 RSS and other Hindu functionaries were on the PFI's target list. Prominent Hindu temples like the Ram Janmabhoomi in Ayodhya, the Krishna Janmabhoomi in Mathura were also on the target radar. UP police arrested PFI activists from Ayodhya for anti-national activities. Maharashtra ATS claims the attempt to blow up Ram Mandir and build a Babri Masjid there. That was also something which was plotted. These are all, as per the media reports, these have been detailed out in the past as their intent via various investigations and leads. Now, homegrown terror. Let's try and understand the genesis of this organization, that is PFI, which finds its roots in Simi, and Simi finds its root in the Jamaat Islam Hind. They created Simi. Simi was formed way back in 1977 and banned in 2001. Simi's only aim was to quote-unquote re-energize SIO, or the Students Islamic Organization. Simi became independent of the Jamaat Islam Hind in 1993. National Democratic Front formed in 1993, formed after the Babri Masjid demolition in Kerala. The Indian Mujahideen was formed in 2000, closely linked with Simi. Manita Needi Pasarai formed in 2001 in Karnataka. And then Karnataka Forum for Dignity in 2001. So both were formed. Manita Needi Pasarai was formed in Tamil Nadu. Both groups are said to be Simi offshoots. PFI formed in 2006 with a merger of 3 Muslim groups and said to be the offshoot of the JIH linked to the Jamaat-ul Mujahideen Bangladesh. So these are all the links. SDPI is the political outfit that evolved out of the PFI back in 2009. Campus Front of India or CFI's PFI student wing that was formed in 2009, though now the organization claims it is not linked to the PFI. So all these started as direct offshoots of the PFI, and over the last few years or decade plus, they have slowly weaned themselves away from the mothership and claim to be individual organizations. The query and the concern now is that the government under the UAPA Act has banned the PFI for the next 5 years, but along with the banning of the PFI, do its affiliate also need to be banned? That's the question. Let's go across to Om Prakash Singh, Additional DGP, State Crime Branch, Haryana. Om Prakash ji is with us. Om Prakash ji, namaste. Thank you for your time. My first question, this is all basis the charge sheet that has been put out by the Maharashtra ATS, and it's about the PFI and their activities in the state of Maharashtra. A lot of details seem to be very similar to what is found in Bihar and what is alleged to be the intent, the actual intent of this outfit, which is, as we have put out, finds its DNA in Simi. Your thoughts?
Look, PFI has been in existence since 2006, and it's a Islamic political organization in India that engages in radical and extremist style of Muslim minority politics. I have seen myself while I was in UP that a lot of activities being carried out by this outfit in various parts of the state. And when we had recommended in 2019, we had recommended for its ban, we had enough material to show that their activities were anti-national. They had proclaimed, as you see even in the charge sheet of Maharashtra Police, they have talked about document, this dream, 2047 dream. And they say that their whole effort is to make India as Islamic rule, Islamic state by 2047. So their activities are very nefarious, very anti-national, and we have seen all over the world that threat of terrorism has extended to a much larger geographical confine.
Right.
And the resources available with this outfit, with PFI, they are much higher. They have better connectivity. They have better mobility. They are equipped with sophisticated weapons, and they are well funded. That's the more important thing. They are well funded. And gradually we have found that over the years they have better and larger support base, and they have increased their number of bases also. Imagine a state like Kerala, they have traveled from Kerala to parts of Uttar Pradesh. In fact, the SIMI organization started in Aligarh in UP, which was subsequently banned.
Right.
So I think that due to their geographical reach, this outfit has a potential threat for a country like India. And by banning this organization, we have done the right thing. In fact, Government of India has done the right thing. And I feel that one has to go for a very, very concerted effort to do something against this outfit. I mean, by banning this outfit is not enough. In fact, you have to go wholeheartedly, and your counter-terrorism effort should be much more pointed. It should be much more focused. And it should be more objective, as well as it should be more professional. So a greater challenge is ahead, and I think the PFI needs to be tackled like this.
Now, I also want to ask you, did they find purchase among the Muslim community itself, or has the Muslim community largely rejected them? Because one of their objectives in this document, and it's stated, is that they want to get at least 10% of the Muslim support across the country. If they believe that they have 10% of the Muslim population in India with them, they will be able to establish an Islamic state, push out all other outfits and establish themselves. Do you believe that they find acceptance, or have they not been able to get much traction?
Look, depends on the kind of educational level the Muslims have. I personally feel that by and large the Muslims are nationalistic, but there are sections of the Muslims who try to, because of their poverty, because of their socio-economic conditions, because of their lack of education, all these factors, they naturally, they try to propel them to go towards this, because their ideology is very tempting. They try to tell the people, lure the people in a different way. So I would largely believe that most of the Muslims are not gravitating towards the ideology, but yes, there is chance. That is why you have the cases of radicalizations And that is why we say that the government of India, and it has been done, we should go for de-radicalization and counter-radicalization process. So I do feel that largely the Muslims are not siding with them, but certainly there are pockets in Kerala, there are pockets in Bihar, there are pockets in Eastern UP as well as in Western UP, where some of the populations are gravitated towards them.
So what's the solution? They're banning organizations, filing charge sheets, nearly 250 to 300 cadre have been arrested, but is that the solution? What's next?
As I said, the counter-terrorism effort should be much more focused. On the one hand, you need to deal with them strictly by seeing that how their financial sources can be choked, can be stopped. This is number one. Number two, all their sources for getting the funds, getting the weapons, getting ideologies, getting so many electronic evidences or electronic literatures and all that, they should be very, very massively dealt with. This is one.
Right.
Secondly, we need to mainstream the Muslims also. We need to tell them that this is not in your interest. And radicalization, de-radicalization and counter-radicalization, all these programs should go. In fact, the police in Maharashtra, police in UP and Kerala, so many states, they are doing it and they have been very, very successful. I know for myself,
right.
When I was DGP there, we had a lot of programs on de-radicalization and we succeeded in doing so many radicals turning into mainstream people. Yeah.
But it's not just the uneducated. There are also highly educated individuals who are members of PFI or they are members of its affiliate organizations, and you can see them manifest across the country under various bodies and heads, but they seem to be pushing the same narrative. How do we tackle that? So it's educated individuals who are involved with the PFI who are championing all of this, and if you find the modus, they use various aspects of constitution, various aspects, various narratives to find themselves very benign and hide their real motive. There is always an underlying ulterior design. How do we tackle that? Is the establishment cognizant of this?
You're right in saying so, that a lot of educated youths and Muslims, they are becoming radicalized through that. You see this attack, the recent attack in Gorakhnath Mandir, where a chap from IIT Bombay, he could do that. So we cannot say largely that it's because of the lack of education. It's more because of the education and because of some very strong notions about this. But as you rightly said, that we need to educate them, we need to have better connections with the youth, and youth have to be told, they have to be given a kind of message that this is not something you can aspire for. India remains India. It's a robust country. Look at the economy. Look at so many things.
Right.
We are gravitating towards one of the greatest powers on earth.
Correct.
And 2047 will become one of the strongest nations in the world. So their dream gets shattered. They just cannot think of making it an Islamic state and trying to have a different kind of preachings, different kind of ideology altogether. So youths have to play a very, very important role. And in fact, lot of activities, the programs that is being initiated by our Honorable Prime Minister is also towards building a nation building by the youths. Youths are playing a very, very important role. And you know that India is going to be a young country. And youths are a very, very sizable population. That includes Muslim as well. So we have to tap and we have to tell and we have to indoctrinate these people, the Muslims, the young Muslims, that this is not good for them if at all they think in those terms.
Well, O.P. Singh ji, thank you. Thank you for your time and for weighing in on this entire matter. Somewhere the opinion is that the government needs to also keep close tabs on the affiliates and are active members of the PFI now hiding behind or using the affiliates to try and continue their operations and their intent. That question remains, and it's the state that's got to crack down on it. We're going to get a move on here on The Right Stand to bring to you another development. It's also started the latest political face-off between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party, the Congress also weighing in, and this is in the national capital. The AAP government facing yet another charge, a serious one. This time, the Aam Aadmi Party-led government in Delhi has been accused of using the Vigilance Department to carry out snooping on political rivals and also on government institutions. The case has been referred to the President's office after a CBI report accused the AAP government of snooping. The LG of Delhi has also made some stunning allegations. Agency is not within the constitutional scheme of governance is one of the allegations or observations. An attempt to create snooping. These are all part of the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi's notes which have been accessed by CNN News 18. There's an attempt to create a snooping agency without oversight. The Chief Minister tabled this agenda without circulating a cabinet note. Employees hired on non-existent posts without approval. Evidence of blatant disregard of financial propriety. Some serious concerns that have been raised. So what does the CBI say in its preliminary inquiry? The CBI says that there was snooping on political entities, people in 8 months. The FBU investigated 700 cases. 60% of the cases are political, not related to vigilance. 1 crore was marked as secret service expenditure. The FBU caused a 36 lakh rupee loss to the government exchequer. This is the preliminary inquiry. Obviously, the LG's note has triggered a political war. BJP's charge is that Manish Sisodia has been caught. That's the charge that the BJP has made. Manish Sisodia caught spying. The Aam Aadmi Party's counter is that these allegations of snooping are all false. The feedback unit was also snooping on journalists, businessmen and senior officers. The Delhi government saying the CBI and ED should actually probe the link between Modi and Adani. Spying was done using taxpayers' money, but Aam Aadmi Party saying all cases are purely politically motivated. So the AAP in denial, trying to hit back or counter this charge, but the LG's note causing quite a flutter. Let's listen into reactions from both the BJP and the AAP.
दिल्ली की आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार के डिप्टी सीएम मनीष सिसोदिया फीडबैक यूनिट के बहाने राजनीतिक नेताओं की जासूसी करते हुए पकड़े गए। दिल्ली के टैक्स पेयर्स के पैसे से दिल्ली का विकास कार्य करने की बजाय अवैध रूप से जासूसी करवाई जा रही है। जांच एजेंसियों ने इसको पकड़ा है और अब डिप्टी सीएम मनीष सिसोदिया के ऊपर केस दर्ज करने की प्रक्रिया शुरू हो रही है।
देश के अंदर सबसे बढ़िया स्कूल टैक्स के पेयर के पैसे से आम आदमी पार्टी ने बनाए हैं। सबसे बढ़िया हॉस्पिटल आम आदमी पार्टी ने बनाए हैं। लोगों को टैक्स पेयर के पैसे से फ्री बिजली, फ्री पानी टैक्स पेयर को भी आम आदमी पार्टी दे रही है। प्रॉफिट के अंदर सरकार चला रही है। अगर इनको लगता है हम जासूसी कर रहे हैं तो एजेंसीज इनके पास हैं। अनर्गल आरोप लगाना से चीजें खराब नहीं होती।
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we meet some of those young minds, bright minds, whose satellite will be in orbit in just over 12 hours from now at 9:18 a.m. on the 10th of February from Sriharikota. The SSLV D2 will now take off to launch 3 satellites into orbit. One of these satellites is the Azadi Sat, weighing about 8 kilograms, built by more than 750 girls, along with the Space as part of the Space Kids program to mark 75 years of our Azadi and of course the year of G20 leadership. We speak to some of those brilliant minds on the other side. Stay with us.
Just because someone has succeeded is not enough to say why that person has succeeded. You have to break down what is the quid pro quo or the scam or the corruption or the crony capitalism here.
Interestingly, these spy balloons fly at great heights, at more than 40,000 feet. The Chinese themselves claim that they all went astray. Can we put it past them that they will not resort to this? This is a World War II technique.
I think the point of concern is how much exposure do public sector institutions have to this particular set of companies, because that at the end of the day is public money.
Child marriage is something that should be stopped. It is abusive, and if anything, it is a menace.
Violating international norms by shooting down the balloon, but made no mention of the violation of international law. China has also said it would defend its legitimate rights in the interests of the enterprise involved, which could help it make the case that the government was not directly involved in launching this balloon. China has also refused a conversation with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. In his State of the Union address, U.S. President Joe Biden made a reference to this Chinese balloon episode.
I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world, but make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
Now, according to the United States, China's fleet of spy balloons have targeted several countries, including India. As per the Washington Post, the surveillance balloon effort has operated for several years now, partly out of the Hainan province, which is in the southern coast of China. They have collected information on military assets in other countries and areas of emerging strategic interest to China, including the Indo-Pacific, India, Japan, and of course the thorny issue of Taiwan. These surveillance airships are operated in part by the People's Liberation Army. They have been spotted over at least 5 continents. They are part of China's fleet of balloons developed to conduct surveillance operations, and they have violated the sovereignty of other countries apart from the United States. So, could the popping of a balloon turn into a watershed moment in the rivalry between the United States and China? The balloon crisis could exacerbate already tense ties where the US and Chinese forces have come into very close contact, including over the South China Sea. US officials are increasingly worried that Chinese state companies may be assisting Russia's military effort against Ukraine by providing technology and semiconductors, which may raise the pressure for action by the White House. The Biden administration is already expected to create a body to review outbound U.S. investments into China the next few months. And the new Republican House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, is expected to follow in the footsteps of his Democratic predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, with a visit to Taiwan later this year. Days after the U.S. shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon, the first images of the debris were released by the U.S. Navy. The balloon, it was around 200 feet tall. Just wrap your head around that figure, 200 feet high. It was shot down early Saturday morning as it floated off the coast of South Carolina. The U.S. Navy is using underwater drones, warships, inflatable vessels to try and retrieve whatever pieces they can from this balloon. The debris are now being taken to an FBI lab in Virginia to analyze the capabilities of this balloon. What danger could it have possibly meant for the United States and for U.S. citizens? Remember, the U.S. insists that the balloon was used by the Chinese military for spying. While China has acknowledged that the balloon was indeed Chinese, they have called it a weather balloon that had blown off course. Now, this balloon has caused a serious diplomatic face-off between the US and China. Just take a look at the series of events over the last 10 days. The balloon first entered American airspace towards the end of January, flying around the southern tip of Alaska. It then entered Canadian airspace to then float back into American airspace. It made its way over Montana, which is home to the Malmstrom Air Force Base, which is one of the 3 sites which operates and maintains the silo-based intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, the balloon also cast a shadow over U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's planned visit to Beijing. He was supposed to go there on the 3rd of February. Just hours before his departure, Blinken decided to postpone his trip. According to the U.S. State Department, the surveillance balloon had undermined the very purpose of the trip. The following day, the United States military shot down the balloon as it hovered over the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of South Carolina. A single missile fired from an F-22 Raptor stealth fighter jet brought down the balloon, which had been flying at about 60,000 to 65,000 feet. Remember, normal aircraft fly about 30 to 40,000 feet. This was flying about 20,000 feet higher. All flights were grounded in North and South Carolina shortly before the shooting down of the balloon. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping currently has his hands full with domestic problems like the fallout of his zero-COVID policy, and perhaps he doesn't want to drag out the dispute with the United States, which could explain the rather muted reaction from China to the balloon being shot down. China claimed that the United States is using armed force to bring down the balloon, and that is an excessive reaction. It expressed strong discontent and protest against the U.S. action. The Chinese have also accused the United States of violating international norms by shooting down the balloon, but made no mention of the violation of international law. China has also said it would defend its legitimate rights in the interests of the enterprise involved, which could help it make the case that the government was not directly involved in launching this balloon. China has also refused a conversation with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. In his State of the Union address, U.S. President Joe Biden made a reference to this Chinese balloon episode.
I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world, but make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
Now, according to the United States, China's fleet of spy balloons have targeted several countries, including India. As per the Washington Post, the surveillance balloon effort has operated for several years now, partly out of the Hainan province, which is in the southern coast of China. They have collected information on military assets in other countries and areas of emerging strategic interest to China, including the Indo-Pacific, India, Japan, and of course the thorny issue of Taiwan. These surveillance airships are operated in part by the People's Liberation Army. They have been spotted over at least 5 continents. They are part of China's fleet of balloons developed to conduct surveillance operations, and they have violated the sovereignty of other countries apart from the United States. So, could the popping of a balloon turn into a watershed moment in the rivalry between the United States and China? The balloon crisis could exacerbate already tense ties where the US and Chinese forces have come into very close contact, including over the South China Sea. US officials are increasingly worried that Chinese state companies may be assisting Russia's military effort against Ukraine by providing technology and semiconductors, which may raise the pressure for action by the White House. The Biden administration is already expected to create a body to review outbound U.S. investments into China the next few months. And the new Republican House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, is expected to follow in the footsteps of his Democratic predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, with a visit to Taiwan later this year. Days after the U.S.
Bharat's small satellite launch vehicle, or the SSLV, is all set to soar into space for the second time, and this will happen on Friday with 3 new satellites. The SSLV D2 will be the second developmental mission of the nation's indigenously built rocket after an unsuccessful maiden trip to space that happened in August 2022. Its target would be to inject 3 satellites into space, the EOS-07, Janus 1 and the Azadi Sat 2. Within 13 minutes of its launch from Sriharikota, the rocket will inject the first satellite EOS-07 into orbit, followed by the other 2 within a gap of a minute each. All of them will be placed into a circular orbit around the Earth at an altitude of about 450 kilometers during this 15-minute flight. Built by 750 girl students of 75 schools across India, Azadi Sat will also be one of the 3 satellites that will be launched. And a short while ago, I interacted with some of the architects of Azadi Sat.
I have Dr. Srimati Kesan, who's champion of the Space Kids program, and we also have some bright young students from 2 of the schools that have participated in this entire endeavor to try and put a satellite in space. And this satellite, this payload, is going to be carried by the SSLV rocket that's going to be launched from Sriharikota by ISRO. So the countdown has begun. I have some kids from Ladol in Gujarat, and then we also have kids from the St. Francis School. Now, Dr. Srimati Kesan, where is the St. Francis School? And this, I'm given to understand, this entire endeavor was a Kashmir to Kanyakumari endeavor. 750 girl students. How did this happen?
It was a dream, I should say, to bring in, connect all the girl children from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. In fact, I wanted to do this as a physical session where, bring in all the 750 to Chennai and teach them the entire nuances of building the satellite. What is a satellite? What is a rocket? What is a payload? And, teach them everything and then get this payload built. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to do everything online, but
Wow.
nevertheless, I did not want to step back. And, when I gave this proposal, I was in the ICCO. And I gave the proposal from there and I said, I am not going to kick the bucket before we launch this satellite. I have to get this done. And I was so thrilled that ISRO accepted our proposal.
Tell us, what is this satellite about and what is it that these girls have built?
Okay,
Before I get chatting with them.
Communication. This is basically a communication satellite. And the highlight of it is we wanted to get these children understand, what is space, what is a satellite. It is not a very big payload that they have built. It's simple payloads. But anything that is built hands-on, that remains in there forever. So that is the impact we wanted to create. And I would say this is more than a scientific journey. It is building a character entirely of theirs. Girls boldly coming out and doing something. Because
Yes.
we've got children from interior villages, wherein parents did not allow them for the extra class also. I'm having children from Ladol, Gujarat, and I'm having St. Francis, Sikandrabad, Telangana. So I'm having these two schools here who are joining us.
So Gujarat in the west and Telangana in the south, and there are two different groups. So let's try and talk to Gujarat. Kem cho? Majama cho tame? नमस्ते, जय श्री कृष्णा। अब अभी आप मुझे बताइए कि आप में से कितनों ने इस प्रोजेक्ट में काम किया and what work did you do? What did you do? What is your contribution to this satellite?
We participated in Azadi Sat satellite launching project and felt like scientists. We got information about importance of satellites and how it's work in our life.
Lovely. और फिर पीएम मोदी से आप कब मिली?
10th जून को अहमदाबाद भोपाल इसरो स्पेस सेंटर में।
तो फिर उन्होंने क्या पूछा आपसे?
जो हमने वो पेलोड बनाया था वो कैसे वर्क करता है और उसमें क्या क्या है वो सब मुझे नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने पूछा था।
तो गुजराती में समझायो कि हिंदी में बोला और डिड यू एक्सप्लेन इट इन इंग्लिश?
मैंने उनको सब गुजराती में ही समझाया था।
तो वड़ा प्रधान ने क्या बोला फिर?
उनको मैंने जब गुजराती में समझाया तो उनको बहुत गर्व हुआ और मुझे बहुत शाबाशी दी और उन्होंने कहा कि आप इस वर्क में आगे बढ़ते रहो और गुजरात का नाम, देश का नाम, भारत का नाम पूरे वर्ल्ड में रोशन करो।
सो अब आप मुझे बताइए व्हाट इज अ पेलोड, समझाइए मुझे व्हाट इज अ पेलोड। चलिए आपका टेस्ट लेते हैं।
हाँ, वो हमारा पेलोड था। उसमें 1 ग्रीन कलर का माइक्रो कंट्रोलर था। जैसे इंसान में दिमाग काम करता है वो शरीर को
शरीर को कंट्रोल करता है।
यस, जैसे सैटेलाइट में वो ग्रीन माइक्रो कंट्रोलर एज अ माइंड के जैसे कंट्रोल करता है और उसमें हमारे पेलोड में 2 सेंसर थे। एक था IMU सेंसर और एक था एनवायरनमेंट सेंसर। वो 2 सेंसर्स स्पेस में जब सैटेलाइट जाएगा रॉकेट में, जब वो स्पेस में जाएगा तो वो एनवायरनमेंट सेंसर वो स्पेस के आसपास वो सब एनवायरनमेंटल ह्यूमिडिटी, टेम्परेचर, प्रेशर ये सब डिटेक्ट करके वो अर्थ पर ट्रांसमिट करेगा।
Now let's go to St. Francis School, Telangana. Namaskara. Now you please tell me what is it that you built? One of you can tell me what is it that you built?
We are the team from St. Francis. So we have started working on this payload from last 1 year, and this was been such a wonderful experience for us as Total 75 schools are participating and 750 girls are taking part in this. The team has helped us very much in programming the satellite. They have sent us the payloads and firstly they have sent us a link and they have taught us how to connect this payload. Then they have given us some guidelines and following that guidelines we were successful in connecting the payload and we have checked the temperature and humidity. We were successful and finally we have sent these payloads to the team. And finally from 75 schools they collected all the payloads and now we are very excited that the payloads which we have programmed are going into space.
Apart from that, being the presidency, of the G20 countries this time, we were proud to send the G20 logo up.
Wow.
So nobody has done that. We wanted to do this for our country, and that's another speciality, I should say. And apart from that, a nice space song. We have come up with a beautiful space song wherein a village girl dreams. We've taken Tanvi as an example, and like Tanvi, all these kids as an example who dreams to go to space. So we wanted to bring the little details of space in that song, and that was composed by DSP, the rock star DSP. And
yes. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful speaking to all of you. St. Francis in Telangana, B.S. Patel Kendriya Vidyalaya in Ladol, Dr. Srimati Kesan. Thank you so much.
Your heart swells with pride, doesn't it? 750 girls are going to have developed that Azadi Sat 2, which is now going to be launched into orbit. 9:18 a.m. is the launch from Sriharikota on Friday morning. You can witness it right here on CNN News 18. With that, I call it a wrap in this edition of The Right Stand. Zakar ready with brass tacks.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakar Jacob. For the second day running, the Prime Minister tore into the opposition in his reply to the motion of thanks to the President's address. He made a simple proposition before the people of India. On the issue of corruption, do you trust Modi or do you trust the Congress party with its history of scams in the UPA era? Now, his parting line, Ek Modi Akela Sab Par Bhari, that seems to be an indication of what is to come in 2024, the framing of the narrative, as it were, going into the big general election. Is it going to be Modi versus all come 2024? But first, the story.
जितना कीचड़ उछालोगे, कमल उतना ही ज्यादा खिलेगा.
Prime Minister Modi refused to be drowned out by opposition chants and delivered another resolute reply to the motion of thanks on the President's address.
हमने श्रेय का रास्ता चुना है, प्रिय लग जाए आराम कर लें, वो रास्ता हमने नहीं चुना है.
For the second day in a row, he accused the Congress of glossing over their own shortcomings.
कांग्रेस को बार-बार देश नकार रहा है, लेकिन कांग्रेस और उसके साथी अपनी साजिशों से बाज नहीं आते हैं और जनता ये देख भी रही है और उनको हर मौके पर सजा भी देती रही.
He asked why none of the Gandhis used Nehru as their surname and said India is not slave to any family.
ये देश किसी परिवार की जागीर नहीं है. उनकी पीढ़ी का कोई व्यक्ति नेहरू सरनेम रखने से डरता क्यों है? क्या शर्मिंदगी है? नेहरू सरनेम रखने से क्या शर्मिंदगी है? इतना बड़ा महान व्यक्तित्व.
Throughout Prime Minister Modi's 83 minutes long address in the Rajya Sabha, there were loud and unrelenting chants from the opposition benches, targeting him over the Adani controversy.
Honorable members.
The opposition has been demanding a joint parliamentary probe into allegations linked to the Adani group. But the Prime Minister brought down the House with this resounding finish.
देश देख रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है. करने के लिए निकला हुआ हूं। और इसलिए ये राजनीतिक खेल खेलने वाले लोग, उनके अंदर वो हौसला नहीं है, वो ढूंढ रहे हैं, बचने का रास्ता खोज रहे हैं।
So has the Prime Minister set the tone for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections?
All right, let me open this up to our guests. It's a short face-off tonight here on Brass Tacks. Aparajita Sarangi is BJP MP and national spokesperson. Shama Mohammed, Congress Party spokesperson, and Advaita Kala, author and political analyst, joining us. Let me start with Shama Mohammed because both yesterday and today, in response to the Adani allegations, the Prime Minister's manner of response or the way to respond to those allegations seems to be that he is putting this firmly in the court of public opinion and saying, on the issue of corruption, who do you trust? Do you trust me, Modi, or do you trust the Congress party with its history of UPA scams? That seems to be his response to all the questions that the opposition has put to him and, you know, for the better part of many days now, held the budget session hostage to. Shama Mohammed. Shama Mohammed, can you hear me? All right, I'll go back to Dr. Shama Mohammed in just a moment once her audio line is fixed. But Aparajita Sarangi, is that the strategy that Mr. Modi is now putting this back in the court of public opinion and saying, on corruption, who would you choose? Would you choose me or would you choose the opposition represented by the Congress?
A very good evening. Let's first of all try to understand the background of this entire speech, fiery speech by the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday and today in both houses of the Parliament. We were discussing the presidential address and the motion of thanks had to go on. And at that point of time, Rahul Gandhi in the Lok Sabha talks of a particular person and a particular organization. Now, without any documentary evidence, without any proof, he kept on talking about that organization, and thereafter the entire Congress and of course the other political parties also joined the bandwagon. They all started. Now here is a Prime Minister who actually gave very befitting reply to all these critics, and it would not be an exaggeration if I can say that yesterday and today, after his fiery speech, and a speech filled with content, a speech filled with conviction and a kind of commitment towards the cause of the nation, he has silenced all his critics.
But Aparajita Sarangi, the critics, those critics that you refer to, Aparajita Sarangi, those very same critics that you refer to are saying that in the last two speeches that he made, well over an hour in both houses, he did not refer to the issue at hand even once, the issue that has held Parliament hostage for the better part of the last week, 10 days.
I can only say that unless documentary evidence is given, that particular issue should not be spoken about. One. Number two, please remember 2-3 days back, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman had come out into the open and she had given interviews and she had mentioned that SEBI is the regulator, SEBI is doing its job. And LIC and SBI have come out and have issued separate statements. So I think SEBI is doing the job. SEBI will come out with a comprehensive report, and then thereafter what's to be done will be done.
All right.
Now I can only say that the business community has to grow in the country, and various businessmen are growing, and it's a good sign for the country.
Let me ask Dr. Shama Mohammed, you may not like the manner of his reply or the way he chose to reply, but this is the Prime Minister telling the people of India, you decide on the issue of corruption, are you going to choose me, Modi, or are you going to choose the UPA with its history of all the scams from 2004 to 2014? And in that count, on this issue, he seems to be directly throwing the gauntlet back at you.
Okay, first a couple of points, Zaka. I've been sitting here for 10 minutes and I've been connected after the show is on. I fail to understand. So
I came to you first. You couldn't hear me.
No, but they did not connect. It's not you.
I apologize for the audio
so it
line.
Doesn't matter.
But go ahead, yeah.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, so a couple of points. Now, the Prime Minister keeps saying about scams from before 2014. Now, I want to know what are these so-called scams. No, you just can't come every time and lie to the people of India. Now, I remember he said helicopter. I know that is Augusta Westland. What did we do after Augusta Westland? We stopped the contract immediately. We did a CBI probe was started immediately. And even in Parliament, we said we are ready for a JPC. We never said that. And whenever so-called allegations has happened, the minister, including chief ministers, have stepped down and an impartial investigation happens. That's why we ask them to step down. And whenever we say whatever, the coal scam, so-called coal scam, the 2G, the Supreme Court has clearly said there was no scam. So nobody has been convicted. Let's understand that. Who is the only person who I remember has got convicted in a scam or corruption is Yediyurappa. After being convicted in 2011, he was made the CM by Mr. Modi. Na khaunga, na khane dunga. What has happened there? So let's get the facts right. Now, in terms of this case of Mr. Adani, what I want to point out is in 2019, there was the finance ministry as well as Niti Aayog objected to giving 6 contracts, 6 of the airports to one bidder. They clearly came out and said, even the Department of Economic Affairs says that this should not be done because it is a huge capital investment, it's a financial risk, and also in terms of competition, it is best to give one bidder, just 2 airports. Okay, this is coming from the government of India. But this was overruled. And also they gave an example of GMR, which was during our time when the airport was given to GMR. It was the best bidder in both for Delhi as well as Mumbai. But it was only given Delhi. So this was there. It was there before. So why was this particular person
Shama
given
Mohammed,
all?
can I ask one thing? If you have this information, you can go ahead and challenge this in a court of law. Let the court decide and go into the merits of whether and why these objections were overruled. Your leader, one second. Your leader, when he spoke in Parliament 2 days ago, he made a specific charge that GVK, the company that used to run the Mumbai airport, was pressured to give the contract to the Adani Group. Subsequently, the next day, the person in charge of the GVK group of companies came out and said that no such thing happened. In fact, they were looking to sell and they were trying to sell for a number of months. Finally, it was Mr. Adani who showed interest and wrapped up the deal in a month, thereby refuting what your leader said on the floor of the House.
See, everybody lives in fear. I do know many important businessmen, when the shares of the Adani was down, they were called. I'm not going to name who. But the second topmost guy called them up and said, the shares, you must buy it. We know what's happening in this country. So, they can be pressurized to tell these things. We know how it functions. But there are these things which I have told you just now, which has come out. And every time you say challenge in the court of law. So I fail to understand why do we have an executive? Every case when it comes to Rafale, everything go to Supreme Court. So let the Supreme Court be in charge of this country. Why do we need Mr. Narendra Modi? Okay. Did he answer anything we have asked him? Every time he has this thing about going back to, I want the BJP
I want to get Advaita Kala to respond.
Which are the so-called scams?
I think Advaita Kala, I think what we are seeing, I think is a trailer, if you will, of what we can expect in 2024. I thought both the speech in the Lok Sabha yesterday and the one in the Rajya Sabha today was setting the stage. It was more election speech than parliamentary speech. It is setting the stage for what could likely be a dominant theme going in the run-up to 2024. The problem, though, is we have seen this script play itself out previously. In 2019, Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party went hammer and tongs on Rafale. But the people of India, for whatever it's, they came to the conclusion or they came to the opinion, the majority opinion, that they don't believe that Mr. Modi is corrupt, or at least the allegations did not stick, which is why he came back with an even bigger majority. Once again, is the opposition making the same mistake? What was Rafale in 2019 could be Adani in 2024, thereby giving Mr. Modi an advantage. You're playing the same script again, giving him an advantage. You have to unmute, Advaita.
Sorry, Zaka, I was on mute. I think the important thing to note here is that even with the Rafale case, it was brought up in Parliament again by Mr. Rahul Gandhi and was debunked by French embassy and French ministry officials to the extent that it could have possibly been a diplomatic episode, because there was an illusion that the French were lying and the French in the highest office of the land were lying. Subsequently, this time around as well, you have the statement about GVK in which Sanjay Reddy, very much the man behind the airport deal, comes out and specifically debunks it and lays out the entire timeline of the transaction in the post-COVID scenario. I'm afraid conjecture cannot be the basis of debate and discussion in Parliament. It can be the basis of debate and discussion on TV or on YouTube or in the newspaper columns, but it cannot be the basis of debate in Parliament. I mean, you have lies being called out in real time by corporate India, like we saw. You have MPs, elected MPs, using abusive language in Parliament. You've had sloganeering while the Prime Minister was speaking right through. Now, look at it from the perspective of just the ordinary Indian who is watching Parliament. Someone like me and millions of others like me do not have access to Parliament. Okay. What we see on TV is what we know and what we experience, and that is what we base our perceptions on. Now, Prime Minister Modi is a masterful orator. He knows that when he speaks, it's not only those heckling parliamentarians who he's addressing, but he's addressing the entire nation. And you're absolutely right. He played to the galley. He took it a step forward. He discussed every single thing that his government has achieved, despite the heckling. And what is the opposition coming back with, apart from abuses? I mean, it's shocking the kind of language that was used in Parliament the other day. And I'm sure, I mean, be it Ms. Sarangi or Shama, I mean, that's not the kind of language we want even from women parliamentarians. Okay. I mean, we call it out with men all the time. But that's the kind of environment that existed in Parliament. Are you expecting us to take people like that seriously?
Let me go back to Aparajita Sarangi. What the opposition's point is that, you know, what Shama Mohammed cited about, you know, concerns raised by various ministries. There was also the instance cited today in Parliament about how there was a Sri Lankan official who, quote unquote, told a parliamentary committee there that they were pressured to give a particular project to this business conglomerate. Aren't these questions that deserve a probe, whether JPC or no, aren't these questions that deserve a probe? I mean, it goes back to the Hindenburg report, which seemed to suggest that there were shell companies that were used to round-trip money. Shouldn't that be probed? And if it is false, so be it. I mean, let the truth come out.
I would be reiterating what I said. See, when you level charges against none less other than the Prime Minister of the country, you should have the maturity to come to the Lok Sabha or come to the floor of the Parliament with documentary evidence. There has to be proof. Otherwise, you cannot just speak about the Prime Minister in that particular tone. So I think if there had been proof, it would have been probed. But the fact remains, I reiterate, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman was candid. SEBI as a regulator is probing. It's the job of SEBI. Let SEBI come out with a report, and I think the entire nation would get to know. Now here, I would definitely like to mention that with a very heavy heart we saw the proceedings of the Rajya Sabha today. Yesterday I was sitting in the Lok Sabha, and today on the television we saw the proceedings of the Rajya Sabha. Very rightly said by the speaker, the friend on the panel, that, you know, this is not the kind of behavior that is to be shown when the Prime Minister is talking. See, the Prime Minister is talking on various issues, and here is a Prime Minister who knows that he should give his report card to the people of India, and who feels accountable to the electorate. It's very important. On various